Welcome back to Kintsugi Heroes, helping people tell the stories they need to share so you can find the stories that you need to hear.
So welcome listeners to another episode of Kintsugi Heroes Stories That Matter. And as I always say, right, we're really excited to have a huge story to share today. It's a huge story in content, but in many ways, it's a really important sort of everyday story, how life can go a number of ways, right? And to share that aspect of her story is Holly Deane-Johns. Welcome to Kintsugi Heroes, Holly.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you. Now, I suppose, I should give a quick background so people can get up to speed. Um, you're a youth worker and a community worker and AOD support person now, which is like helping people with addictions and their social determinants, barriers to their fullest expression of life. And you got to that place after your own journey through addiction and also the consequences of that addiction, right? So being, you mentioned 17 years in various jails and in various penal systems, right? Which seems like a huge chunk, and yet, here you are having a book about your experiences and doing talks and sharing your wisdom gained with the community and helping people directly based on your lived experience. Um, do you see yourself as having lost life, or is that part of your journey?
Um, yeah, look, I'd have to say it's part of my story. If I hadn't have had the life that I have had, um, and all the experiences that go hand in hand with that, meaning, prison, rehabilitation, all that type of thing, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing today. Um, so I work with adults who are still in prison.
Yeah.
I work for Wangening Aboriginal Corporation, and I work in Reset, which is helping adult males who are due out of prison within 6 months, helping them, with support once they're out, employment, housing, pretty much whatever support they need, we will try and offer them. And I can be in contact with these clients for up to a year after their release. So I'm really enjoying working where I work because I used to sit where they're sitting now. So I really understand the struggles that they're having and what they will face once they get released from prison. Yeah.
It's amazing, and just for a minute, I'd love to go back and find out the some of the aspects of your early years that led you to get into this pathway. But
Yeah.
just fascinating with that, the how you sit, and recognize that you were in their spot. Uh, the lived experience of that is almost like another language. Do you feel like you have a special connection, and do they feel like it's something that really makes it better or makes it more powerful to get support from somebody who has lived experience?
Oh, look, 100%. When my clients um, realize my story, um, they're blown away.
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah.
The one thing I always hear is thank you for sharing with us, you know, your story,
Yeah.
because now I understand that you can fully relate to the things I'm telling you. You've been where we are, and
Yeah.
I say yes, I get it.
Yeah.
So I find that my clients are more inclined to open up to me and be completely honest,
Yeah.
because they know I've had the same sort of struggles that they're having.
Is
Yeah,
that
it's
a
a pretty
trust thing?
unique situation to be in.
Yeah. Is that a trust thing?
Oh, definitely. Trust is a huge thing, especially for people in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have trust issues. A lot of people won't talk to the prison officers. They won't talk to anyone else in the prison system. So, yeah, I find that my clients open up to me and become very honest because I know they can be.
Yeah.
I'm not there to judge them.
Yeah. So that is a very difficult position to hold, right? So how did you practice having that sort of suspending the judgment and sort of holding, being completely vulnerable and yet also, protecting yourself from sort of, connecting and over, associating with a lifestyle that you've kind of moved away from?
Yeah, good question. Look, there has to be boundaries in place. You know, that's 100% for sure. Because I can only do so much.
Yeah.
And I love my job, so I'd never do anything to endanger me losing my job.
Yeah.
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 Look, boundaries is a huge thing. You know, I've lived long enough to understand that boundaries are there for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is probably one of the really important things you're modeling for the people you've connected with.
Mm.
Right? Because that, boundaries is something like so many of us don't learn until we've already suffered consequences of it, of not knowing how to manage boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously for anyone doing this type of work, you obviously have empathy for the
Yeah.
people that you're working with. But yeah, you've got to know where to draw the line. There
Yeah.
has to be that line. Yeah.
That's really, it's wonderful that you can do that because it's a tough gig. When I think of your story, Holly, um, you first bumped into, legal challenge at 20, right? But
Mm,
obviously you were bringing a lifestyle to that point that got, that saw you being outside of, normal sort of rules, normal
yeah.
laws. How did that happen? Was like your childhood, uh, something that you wanted to get out of or get away from?
Um, no, not at that time. Yeah, so I was arrested when I was 20. You know, I was a heroin addict at the time, a very bad heroin addict. So, you know, having lived the life of a heroin addict since 16,
Wow.
jail was sort of, I guess, always going to be on the cards for me
It
because,
wasn't
you know,
unexpected, so you kind of saw it. It's what, overdose, it's jail. Those things are sort of real options when you're living that life.
oh, 100%.
Wow.
Um, yeah, you know, I've overdosed many times in my life and thankfully, you know, come out of it. Um, but yeah, when you're in that type of lifestyle, there's always the real, you know, thing of you will go to jail, you
Yeah.
will be arrested because you're living an illegal life.
Mm. Yeah. I was talking to a great man who, had sort of has a journey very similar to yours and now runs a rehab center for Indigenous men. He's doing beautiful work. But he was very passionate about saying, I'm yeah, sure, I fish them out of a river, but the important thing is I want us to all go upstream and find out why they're ending up in the river in the first place, right? And I wonder, how did you end up in that river, that heroin lifestyle, etc.?
Um, so the way I describe it is, you know, I consider my childhood to have been pretty normal up until I was about 11, 12. Well, it wasn't that normal because my mother was running an escort agency out of the family home.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty early on, probably about 11, that started. My parents separated when I was 12. My dad moved back to Melbourne.
Right.
You know, 5 of us kids, we were given the choice of whether to stay with mum or not, or go and live with dad. We all chose mum. My reason for choosing mum was I was a teenager at that time. I was in high school. You know, I had my friends. I didn't want to have to start all over again somewhere else. And the other reason was my dad was very strict and my mum wasn't. So that was a huge part of why I wanted to stay as well.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was about 15, my mum met a guy who we had no idea had been in prison, and we had no idea he was a heroin addict.
Wow.
We'd never known people who used drugs. We'd never seen drugs. That had just never, ever been in our world until mum met this guy. Yeah, I guess when they met, this guy, you know, I'm sure he was seeing dollar signs because my mum was very wealthy.
Yeah.
And then slowly as time went by, his facade started to crack away, and we ended up seeing who he really was.
Wow.
Realizing he was a heroin addict. And slowly, unfortunately, my mother started to use.
Wow.
And one by one, each of us kids started using. So, yeah, at one time or another, we've all been heroin addicts, and we'd all been to prison because of our heroin addiction. Yeah.
That's there's so much sadness from my perspective. Is that the right response? Should I be sad because of that situation, right? You were a young person, and the circumstances, the environment you found yourself in through no fault of your own, really, was something that you could, you can't be blamed for sort of picking up some aspects of it. Do you blame people, or do you feel like
No, I don't blame anybody. And the one thing I always want to make clear when I do interviews is, you know, some people think, oh, you know, how shit of your mother to first give you that try of heroin. But, you know, people have got to understand that, you know, my mother was totally naive to all this sort of thing. You know, if my mum had have thought for 1 second that me having that one try of heroin would have the domino effect it did, there's no way in the world she would have let me try it. There's just no way.
Yeah.
So no, I don't blame anybody.
That's that's such a sort of aspect of growth. So I can say, wow, that's a huge job. But of course, there's 17 years of like dark days and struggle in between learning that lesson and so on. Is that an aspect of your story that, you know, it was about, because you've gone into jail at 20, you were then in Bangkok jail at 29. So you've been in the lifestyle for a long time, right? So how hard is it to get out? You know, like those lessons that you now forgive and understand and connect, you know, where did you pick them up? Like,
look, the thing is, and the thing I always tell people, an addict is not going to stop using drugs until they 110% want to stop using drugs.
Yeah.
If there's not that full-on desire to stop, you're not going to.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't want to stop. I went to rehab a couple of times, but I did that because my parents wanted me to do that.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that for me. So that was never going to work. You know, the first time I got out of jail, I was using again. I didn't want to stop. And once you start using again, you can't stop. So look, thankfully for me, when I did get arrested when I was 29 in Thailand, you know, I went to prison and I was still using drugs in prison. Until 10 months later, I woke up one day and I describe it as having that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
I woke up, I was sitting on the filthy ground, and I was just looking around at the scene that was going on around me. And I just had that clarity in that moment of, look where you are.
Wow.
Look what you've done to yourself. Look where your life is now. Like, you've totally f***ed your life. And yeah, look, it was in that moment that I made the decision to never, ever use drugs ever again. And I've kept that to this day. Look, I think it was just a lot of years of, being in prison, having that drug have complete hold over me, missing out on so much of life because I was in prison for so long. As you get older, I think you start thinking about, different aspects of life. And as you mature, I guess, that comes with it too.
Mm. You would have had a lot of people around you, that lifestyle. There are people that come together for the purposes of helping each other in those moments up to a point. But we know that it's a dangerous choice, right? So you would have a long list of people that you've found and lost over the years. Did that? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no. Good point that you bring up. When I was 21, obviously I was in prison here in Western Australia. My younger sister was in prison at that time with me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a phone call saying that my mother had a heroin overdose and died.
Oh,
so, even going to her funeral handcuffed to a prison officer,
wow.
That wasn't even enough for me to be like, wow, what am I doing?
That's great. It's not great. It's human, but it's hard to understand the why of it all, isn't it?
Look, a lot of people who are addicts, whether it be alcohol or drugs or whatever it is, there's a lot of trauma that people have gone through in their life.
Yeah.
People don't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to get on heroin today and then get arrested and go to jail.
Yeah.
That's something that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's not the plan.
Yeah.
Addicts are trying to mask some sort of pain. Look, that's the best way I can describe it. People use for a reason. People drink for a reason.
Yeah. And and it's not the drug. It's it's what the place the drug takes you, like, to get away from things.
100%. Very, very true. Unfortunately for me, that first try of heroin, that was the beginning of the end for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I had my life to do over again, I would never, ever touch a drug, like never, nothing. But, in hindsight, I didn't know what would happen. I was naive as well.
Yeah. My mother used to warn me, not that it did much good, but she would say, oh, you have an addictive personality, she would say. Do you think there's such thing from your experience?
I do, yeah. I do. I believe that. Yeah. I'm in my addiction, I was always an all or nothing kind of person. And that's sort of true in every aspect of my life. I go all in very hard, or nothing.
Well, stepping out, that, like you said, you woke, sort of opened your eyes on the floor in the middle of, a sort of form of hell, and you just said, that's it, right? That's a pretty all choice, right?
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people can't understand, like, how I managed to do that in that circumstance. But I just had enough.
Yeah.
I was looking at spending a large portion of my life in a Thai prison. And I think, that's enough to shock somebody out of doing it, I think. I'm so grateful that I had that moment. Very fortunate, because if I didn't, I'd either be dead now or doing another prison sentence. They're pretty much the two options.
When you're in the sort of hands of that kind of addiction, right? And you bump into the law, it's not because of, are you being sort of in trouble because you possess the drug, you're taking the drug, or you're trying to do something to get more of it, or what's the kind of choices you're forced to make around that stuff?
Oh, look, it's different for everybody. I mean, whether you're just an addict, you're still having to go out and buy heroin off somebody.
Yeah.
So it sort of doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
You're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So
Yeah.
we get to, you mentioned having a long sentence. So you were you in Bangkok at the time?
Yeah.
And so you picked up a 31-year sentence in a Bangkok prison, and we've seen the movie, right? Now, I mean, and we've seen the executions, right? So that level of commitment. Did you think you were safe or smarter than the authorities? How did you have the forgive me, the balls to do something that was exposing you to a death sentence?
Yeah, it's funny, my husband used to say I had more front than Myers, and I've always been, yeah,
That's a beautiful
I've always
old.
been
My
that type of
grandmother,
person.
yeah, she used to say that as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I forgot the question. I've gone off track.
Yeah, so you've chosen to take on a task, to take on the authorities who have a death sentence up their sleeve.
Yeah, well, this is the thing as well, your drugs have sort of dulled your senses, so to speak. You sort of feel like it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Because, if I had a thought, I was going to get arrested and go to jail, then I probably would have left the country.
Yeah.
But you're not thinking rationally.
Yeah.
You're still doing what you're doing, and that sort of becomes your normal.
Wow. Well,
And
you in
you
Bangkok? Sorry. Yeah,
sorry.
carry on. No, carry on.
No, you take the risk because you're an
Yeah.
addict.
Yeah. Were you in Bangkok because of drugs? Was that what got you there?
No, so my husband was living over there at the time. He was on the run from Western Australia. So when I finished my sentence, I flew over there to be with him.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you meet your husband? Is that was that around the process, or was that just like, dating apps, or, did you meet
No,
in a coffee shop?
no. So we met when I was 16. He was a
Wow.
friend of one of my brothers. So that's how I met him. Yeah.
A childhood romance.
Yeah, he was definitely my soulmate. Yeah.
Wow. Did you get through together? Like,
Yeah. It's really funny because, in his lifetime he went to prison a couple of times. I did as well. So we'd still stay in contact. We used to sometimes have into-prison visits.
wow.
So whenever either one of us got out of prison, we'd come back together again. So, we were together since I was 16, and he unfortunately passed away 2.5 years ago from cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thanks. So, definitely the love of my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got through some pretty tough situations together. Yeah.
From 16, you would have grown up together.
Yeah, pretty much.
Facing, coming to a sort of almost like a joint decision about how you were going to face these life challenges for the first time and subsequently. Did that help? Like
What's that?
having someone who, you'd almost like agreed that this was how we were going to go, so you could,
Oh, 100%. I mean, we just always got on with life, and whatever direction that took, it took us, and we just, got through the hard bits the best way we could.
Yeah. It's a long time together. When he passed away, did you feel the pressure of that grief? Was that something that either affirmed your position now, or was it was it something you had to fight off?
What's that? To start using again?
Oh, and just go back. You're so positive about work, and the mission to help other people and so on. Often
Oh,
grief
look,
can be really transforming.
yeah. I did an interview with Waleed from the project,
Wow.
and when they were talking about this on the show, on the panel, it was Steve Price who said, "Wow, she's just lost her husband. I can't believe she didn't go back to using."
Yeah.
And Waleed said, "No, she's definitely not. Like it's evident." And that never even crossed my mind, not
Wow.
even once.
Yeah.
That's just not in my thought process anymore. Hasn't been for a very long time. Yeah, look, I've done too much jail. I've missed out on so much life. Um, this is a different chapter in my life now. That was the past. This is the future. And mate, really, I'm living my best life. I'm so happy doing what I do. I have amazing friends. I have amazing family. Yeah, life's really good. Yeah.
That aspect of me being an addictive personality, you can transform. Do you like through your journey? You are obviously not just doing things differently. Do you feel like you are a different person?
Yes and no.
Right.
Um, look, I'm still the same person I always was, but the difference is that I'm really using my lived experience in a really positive way, helping the people that need help and support.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. I recently spoke to a bloke in Perth who is working with school kids and homeless and men on the streets and so on, and in jail in the same way you are. He was also in jail for an accident that tragically took the life of another person. Right, and he described his organization is What For, and he described as that purpose was really important to him getting through the consequences of being in jail, right? And making a choice to do something else that's much more, much more kind of virtuous, if you will, right? Is
Yeah.
that purpose? Is that what's driving you? Like a sense of I now have a purpose to either improve things or to use my experience positively or to make amends, even, you know?
Oh, look, yeah, all those aspects are true. Yeah, definitely. Um, I really, well, this year I'll try very hard to, get my book into every prison,
Yeah,
get my book into every rehab,
yeah,
get my book into high schools. I really feel that the life I've lived has been for this reason,
yeah,
to be able to give back in a really positive way.
yeah.
Because yeah, I was a fuck up, I was. Luckily, I came through that. Um, yeah, I'm just in a really good place in life to be able to really make an impact on people.
That's amazing. I loved it, like the joy you share with, obvious joy you share for where you are now and and the work you're doing. Um, I
Look,
feel,
it makes people understand that it's possible.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, people need to have that hope. And, a lot of people have said to me, wow, like, thanks for sharing, because now that we know you did it,
Yeah.
maybe we can too.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's everything,
Yeah.
being able to give that to somebody, it's huge.
It's one of those things, if you can't see a future, you
Yeah.
can't aim for it. You can't take steps towards it. So you're helping them see their future, which can be more like yours than the one they fear or,
Yeah.
despair about. Yeah. Beautiful.
100%. And even a few of my clients have said to me, like, when we get out of jail, we would love to like get into the sort of work you're doing. Um, and I say to them, well, strive for that, because you would
Yeah.
be amazing because of your lived experience. Um, yeah.
It's really turning around. There's so much stigma around, somebody who has paid their their due and come
Mm.
out supposedly free and clear, and yet you see many examples of people still being punished, even though that punishment is supposed to be over. Was that
Yeah.
your experience?
Um, in a few ways it was. You know, I say to people, young people, listen to your parents when they tell you that if you break the law, that will follow you for the rest of your life. I wish I had have listened, because that statement is so true.
Hmm.
Like me, for example, I got out of prison um, in 2012.
Hmm.
I went to see my parole officer that day, and he more or less said to me, "You won't last long."
My
So,
goodness.
yeah. So that's the sort of treatment people get.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
think, oh, you've been a druggie, you've been locked up, or maybe, your family are druggies as well, that you've got no chance.
Yeah.
Well, I was that proof. I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And leading the way, providing the example, when you're talking to those men who are just close to going back out, it must be scary. Is that part of that? How am I going to get a job? How am I going to look after my family? Will they accept me? Will I see my kids? All of those kind of things. How do do you encourage them and tell them it's going to be okay, or is it something more realistic? Let's work out how we're going to hold with the inevitable sort of rejection that you might face.
Um, you know, my clients vary. I've got a lot of clients that are very confident people, very independent people. Then you've got clients that don't have much confidence. They may need more support. And the good thing is that I can be support for them for up to a year
Yeah, it's
when
so
they're
good.
released.
Yeah.
Some people need me,
Hmm.
some people don't. Some people get out and go straight back into a job, accommodation. That's great. But other clients have nowhere to go. They don't have a home.
Yeah.
They don't have any family. There's
Hmm.
no support for them from anyone but, us.
Yeah.
So it's really a mixed bag. I think our biggest hurdle is having accommodation for people.
Yeah.
I've had many clients that I've picked up on their release day
Yeah.
because they've had nobody else to pick them up
Wow.
and drop them off somewhere because there's nowhere to house these people
Yeah.
and they don't have anyone to stay with. That's a really heartbreaking thing,
Yeah. Which,
and
yeah, sorry.
I've had clients that have got out, broken the law just to go back inside because they've got 3 meals a day and
Yeah.
a roof over their head. Now that is crazy, but that's where it's at. That's
You could easily imagine on the height of summer or the depth of winter, on the streets or in a park or a shelter, the food's dodgy, you're out exposed, cold or hot or whatever. You could easily imagine, oh, jail doesn't seem so bad, when that's there.
100%. I picked up a client a few weeks ago and he didn't have accommodation. There was no way to get any accommodation. And
Yeah.
he said, "Don't worry, Holly, it's all good. It's summer. I'll sleep on the beach." That to me was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was the option, the only option for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great what I do and I love it, but it's also very sad what I do as well because
Yeah.
sometimes there is no help.
Yeah.
You
If
know,
Absolutely amazing. If I was to say, look, I'm going to give you an open safe, right? You, Holly, what are the things you could do to improve the situation on the ground, right? On a personal level, what could you do that would immediately make a difference?
the one thing this question always comes back to is accommodation.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, seeing people living on the street, it breaks my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And there's just not enough accommodation here. It's really bad here.
Yeah.
There's so many homeless people, so many good organisations trying to help, but there's not enough resources, unfortunately.
People always think you're like offer, like they say, oh, we can, what about a shelter or whatever? You could buy, if you had an open safe, you could buy a giant shed, one of the, big, farm or industry warehouse or something, and put lots of beds in it. But that's not really what you're talking about, is it? It's like, these guys need to build a home or they need to build a base. Is that fair?
Look, pretty much what you described, that would be amazing, because
Yeah.
at least it's somewhere for now.
Yeah.
But, when accommodation does come up, unfortunately, it's always for a very short time.
Yeah.
So
well,
once that time's over,
the-
see you later. Well,
Yeah.
then where are people meant to go?
Yeah.
There's no sort of transition from one place into another. And, a lot of homeless people want to work, but how can you get a job when you're living on the street?
No.
Like, you're living a daily quest for survival just to get by. There are many clients, from a previous job I had, these women were homeless and they would take methamphetamine to stay awake at night because they'd very often get raped.
Because it was dangerous. Yeah. Wow.
Very, very dangerous, and that's so sad.
Yeah. Terrible. My goodness.
But that, unfortunately, that's a reality.
Yeah.
That's it.
Is it all right if I ask you about the process of being in jail? Say, like, after Midnight Express, Bangkok prison fills me full of dread, right? So when you were, when you were in the court and they handed down a 31-year sentence, what went through your head?
When I got sentenced, I'd already been in the prison for 3.5 years. So when I heard that sentence, I was incredibly happy. The reason why I was happy was Thailand and Australia had a transfer treaty.
Yeah.
So if you were given a life sentence, you had to serve 8 years before you could make the application to transfer home. But if you had a numbered sentence, which I did, 31 years, I could apply to go home after 4 years.
Wow.
So looking at it that way,
6 months.
I had 6 months to go before I could apply to go home.
Yeah.
So unfortunately for me, it didn't work out like that. I was, there for a lot longer than I should have been, but that's just the way, the chips fell for me.
So 7 years in a Bangkok prison it ended up being, right? And you learnt Thai, you learnt the customs, you created really powerful relationships with locals and other prisoners. Was that like you coping, or was that something that you didn't expect but was like a positive aspect of it?
No. So what I did very quickly was assess my situation. I found out who was who. So in other words, I went about getting all the information I could in the situation I'm in, and I started aligning myself with people that could help me.
Wow.
That could help me have the best out of this jail experience, meaning, I paid somebody to wash and dry my clothes.
Wow.
So the people I paid had their own area where they could hang their laundry. It wouldn't get stolen.
Yeah.
I paid somebody for water if I needed extra water. So for me, it was aligning myself with the people that could make my life that little bit easier.
That seems a very sophisticated situation. Was that because of your experiences? Like you'd been in jail far too many times to I guess that prepared you for a very to make the best of a rough situation.
That's sort of been my motto ever since I was a kid. I've always been that way. I'm a very deep thinker, and I'm very, I guess, strategic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think having those traits definitely, worked out well for me.
In some ways, that life, right, that is a real powerhouse educational opportunity, right? Strategy, sort of negotiation skills, business acumen,
Yeah.
psychology, right? Did you know you were learning?
So for the first few months, I had absolutely no intention of learning Thai. Wasn't interested in at all. But after a few months, I got really sick of asking people to translate for me. Um, at that time, I didn't know how long I would be there, but I knew it was going to be probably 20 plus years.
Yeah, well.
So, so I thought, well, you know what? You're an independent woman. You don't like asking people for help, so you're going to have to learn. And I did. I understood a lot more than what I could speak for quite a long time. But as time went on, I could speak more, and
Did when you hear a sentence like that, do you stop dreaming of, do you stop thinking about your future?
Because you don't have one.
Yeah.
There is no future. Until I had made an application to go home and I knew that that was a possibility, then I could start thinking a bit more about the future, but not a lot, because, I was going home to another jail.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I didn't really have a future for a long time.
Yeah.
But when I did get back to the Australian prison, that's when I started. I went to the education centre. I started studying certain things because I knew that one day in my future I would be doing what I'm doing now.
Wow.
That's always been my goal.
Yeah. And of course, getting, you woke up that day and put aside your addiction. What changed when you did that? Because that as you pointed out, that blows my mind, right? Did you start, did you see life differently? Did you feel differently? Did you, what changed?
I suppose I became a bit more, clear-headed, I guess. No substances, affecting my mood or my thinking.
Yeah.
I guess I did feel better because, you're not constantly thinking of getting that drug or having that drug. That's a thought process that's gone now. Whereas when you are addicted, that's all you think about.
Yeah.
Mm.
What was it like for your husband? It must have been terrifying to think you were potentially locked up for a long time.
So at the time I was arrested, my husband was back in Melbourne. He'd been arrested in Melbourne.
Oh, stress.
So, I got arrested probably 2 weeks later. So, he was in Melbourne and I was in Thailand.
In some ways, it's well arranged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're right.
I just want to think about how what was it like writing the book? Because it's from what my interactions with it, it's it's really confronting. Was it run of the mill for you? You've lived it, obviously, but
I started writing the book the first day of my arrest. It's really weird because I didn't have it in my head to write a book or anything like that at that time, but something inside me was saying, start documenting every single thing that happens to you.
Wow.
And that's what I did. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Because as you know, I've written a book about the whole experience. It was good writing the book, but there were times when I couldn't even write for maybe 2-3 years sometimes.
Yeah.
But eventually got it done. And in the process, after getting out of prison, I did a lot of counselling. I had to because I was pretty messed up. I had really bad post-traumatic stress and depression. So once I started getting help for both those issues, a lot changed again in me. I definitely advocate for counselling. I think it's amazing. It did a lot to help me.
Yeah. I always think of that people talk about the threat response, right? When being fight, flight, freeze, or faint. And yet, I can't imagine something like, being more conducive to being threatened than being in a Bangkok prison. But of course, you can't do much. You can't run away. You can't just stand there and be a victim. And I suppose you can sort of suck up to somebody, or you can fight. So,
Mm.
did you see yourself as a warrior? You obviously have fought, and been independent all your life from a young age, right? So was that
Um,
was that your choice to fight, mentally, or
oh, 100%.
yeah,
100%. My personality is one that I would never ever let anybody take advantage of me. I've always stood up for myself, and I stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves.
yeah.
I don't like people to be bullied. I would never let that happen to myself. So, yeah, I guess you could say I was a fighter.
Hmm.
There were times I would have to fight. You do what you have to do.
And you've chosen to bring that to fight in service of others now. Is that is that part of, because they're going through or facing challenges that you did? Do you identify with that? Like, I'm going to take, on the system on these people's behalf.
Oh, look, there definitely are times when I'm asked to advocate on a client's behalf, and I'm quite happy to do that. I'm happy to do it because I've sat in their chair before, and I know how much that would mean to somebody to have somebody advocating on your behalf. So, yeah, look, I'll always help somebody if I can,
Yeah.
regardless of what it is.
What would you
I'll
like?
always stand up for someone.
Yeah. So what would you like, the community at large to know, right? What part of your experience and the experience of the people you help, what do you need to tell us?
Yeah, this is a question I have been asked a few times, and a lot of society has the thought that, oh, you're a prisoner, you've been in jail, oh, you're a drug addict, you're an alcoholic. Those things right there, people automatically think, oh, bad people or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. Look, not all people in jail are bad people.
No.
Obviously, some are and deserve to be where they are,
Yeah.
but a large percentage aren't bad people. They've had a lot of trauma in their life. They've turned to a drug to help mask that pain they have. Look, there's so many layers,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't see that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I think people would see things a lot differently if something had happened to someone in their family who ended up on drugs, jail. Then people would think differently about it.
Yeah.
But when it's not in your immediate circle, people have a different thought process.
Yeah.
That's what I've found anyway.
Would it help if everyone was kinder?
100%.
Yeah.
Kindness doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
A little act of kindness can mean so much to somebody. You just don't have any idea.
Yeah.
A smile to somebody walking past them in the street. You don't know what they're going through in their life.
Yeah.
It's about the little things. The little things mean a lot.
That's so cool to hear you explain it that way. What do you think you want to do, going forward? Are you love this job? Is it more of it? Are you going to sort of climb the ladder and be a bigger noise in the system? What's your future?
Look, I'm really happy with my job. I'm happy at where I am in life. My next big things, I guess, well, what I would like is what I mentioned earlier. I'm going to try and get my books into more places because I'm from Perth. I'm from here.
Yeah.
I'd like people in jail to be able to read this story because it would resonate with so many people. I'd love to be doing talks in high schools, telling this story might make somebody think, oh, shit, I better not do that, or whatever. It's food for thought.
It is, yeah, fantastic. Look,
Yeah.
and talk about food. I feel like you've fed me well today with so
Yeah.
much
Good.
wisdom. What an incredible achievement you have to walk through all of those shadows and dips and challenges and come to a place where every day is something that you can you're leaving a legacy of help, of support, of love. So congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing with us so bravely and having your story out there so that people can feel connected to the hope that you offer. Right?
No, that's great. Thanks very much for having me on. It was good.
Fantastic. Thanks. And all the best.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Kintsugi Heroes. Thank you to Colin Lilly for permission to use Broken as our theme music for this series. If you enjoyed this conversation, share the podcast with a friend and let us know by leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support Kintsugi Heroes and the stories we share, head to kintsugiheroes.com.au and follow the instructions to make a tax-deductible donation. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.